Action. Hey, Lise, how you doing?
I'm doing really well, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Very good. So, Lise, today's subject for us to discuss is we've entitled Embracing AI, Artificial Intelligence.
Which is a great title, and I was just saying, Mark, I ran the AI script to see if it could come up with some better headline ideas for our podcast. And it came up with the ideas that AI in design, revolution or replacement, creativity meets algorithm, the new frontier of AI, or designing the future, how AI is reshaping the creative industries, which make it sound very positive. I was quite impressed. We'll
I
use
love
all of
them
them
all.
in our marketing techniques of the episode. We'll use them all.
Well, therefore, we have been embracing AI. I think it's quite powerful the fact you've used AI to assist you in the production of this podcast. So that's brilliant. So, Lise, what I wanted to first cover off is we'll just sort of discuss our previous and past attitudes to AI, because I know that we were discussing this the other day about what our thoughts were in the past. And I know that we had sort of we were fearful slightly of what was coming and
What
how
was
it's
our
going
podcast
to
called,
impact us.
Mark,
We weren't
last
the only
time?
ones, of course.
We were the robots are coming. Was our old episode on AI a very long
That's
time
it.
ago?
Reviewing that it was quite it was insightful, I think, because it allowed us to actually sort of almost review our fears. And now looking back, we didn't really have anything to fear because it is becoming so prolific in every parts of our jobs. I think, I don't know if you want to go first with this one, but I know that I was looking back only a few years now, and I wrote an article on LinkedIn around about 2017, and it was just after reading Seth Godin's book of Lynch. It was called Linchpin, Are You Indispensable? And the article I wrote was about sort of automated design, basically talking about the craftsmanship and how we're likely to be losing that, and that's going to be pushed aside for automated production or design. My worry was the industry was shaping up to be almost dispensable, more dispensable than it ever has been. But now, in present day, I appreciate the fact we have to embrace it, and we have to make sure that we work alongside it, sort of use those tools to sort of make our lives a bit easier. And like you said, sort of covering efficiencies.
And I think that's a big thing. I always think about you, Mark, because you were big on typography and how you love to craft things. I always remember that pentagram that you got for that equator beer. Somehow it keeps cropping up in my feed when I look online. But it was really crafted, and I think about how AI has revolutionized how quickly we can get to that result when it would previously have taken days and days and days. And I guess so that the challenge in everyone's minds is it as good because it's quick? Just because something is quick doesn't make it any better than if we spent the time to craft it.
Yeah.
Or is it just as good? Can we go in? And that's what I think where AI is on the brink at the moment is there's some really good tools out there. Adobe is obviously on the forefront of that, where you can create something, but then as a designer, you can go in and craft what you create. So I think it gives you a start point or it gives you a basis, but then you still need to go in and craft it if you want to.
Yeah.
It's funny, a nice little story of my week is we presented some logo ideas. We're doing a big corporate rebrand at the moment for an overseas company. And the owner of the business came in and said, hey, I had a bit of a play. I probably shouldn't, but I did this in ChatGPT. It's a logo and I quite like it. And every designer's nightmare or creative director's nightmare on the call is, okay, don't get frustrated with this. Just use it as a tool. But actually, it is irksomely, it is allowing our clients at the moment to create things and go, hey, I did this. I kind of like it. Maybe you can use it for inspiration. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's the perfectly crafted logo. It's just part of an inspirational tool.
Yeah, it's true. And talking about the impact of AI and how it is sort of progressing at substantial speed, my 16-year-old son uses ChatGPT on a daily basis. He says, I spoke to him about it the other day, knowing we were going to do this podcast. And he said, yeah, all my friends use it. We all have it on our phones. They'll use it for pretty much everything now. It gets any question they have. It's not we'll Google it, we'll ChatGPT it.
Yeah.
And I said, how prolific is it within people using it in their schoolwork, for example? And he says it's everywhere. And teachers are very understanding and know that kids use it, and they use it to their
use it too.
Yeah, exactly. They use it a lot. I think it's quite easy to tell when you get to understand a kid's style in writing, for example, in English, and suddenly they produce this masterpiece, which has been obviously produced in ChatGPT. They get caught out quite quickly, and I think that's down to the teacher to understand. And to a certain extent, and by contrast with us within business, it's very easy to see and look at something and think that looks very AI produced, and we
And
get
then
it.
and then it becomes a battle of, do you want to be perceived as that? So I've done some stuff
Yes.
recently, and if you use LinkedIn at all, and I'm sure you use it a lot in LinkedIn Premium, you can write a post. I like to write, so I'll write it, and then it goes, you can enhance it with AI. Now, I've
Yeah.
tested this a few times lately, and sometimes it changes some of the words to make it more sales focused or marketing focused. So it does have some benefits, but it's put so many goddamn emojis in it that you go, something has spat this out. There's like a million emojis.
Yeah.
It's like a LeBron text.
Oh
That
no.
like,
Do you know, it's interesting. Sorry, Lisa. I was going to say that I did exactly the same, and I was thinking I don't really use ChatGPT very much, but a few months back, sadly, my father passed away, and writing his obituary, and I'd written this, and it's really hard to write an obituary about certainly someone, a loved one, but then I had to shorten it down because it was pages and pages. I'd be standing up in church talking for hours, and I was finding out so much stuff about my father. My point being is, I thought I've got to shorten this somehow, so I put it into ChatGPT, and it ChatGPT made me cry. Sadly enough, because
it's
it's beautifully
amazing.
written.
Yeah.
And I thought that's not my words, but it is my words, and it's about him. So
And
it does have its uses.
how good is that? Because I think that's
Yeah,
what we missed them years ago when we talked about this. It didn't have emotion, or it
yeah,
didn't have any humanization to it. And what it's started to do really well, because we're teaching it really well,
yeah,
is to bring in a little bit of empathy.
yeah.
And to your point, like, make it sound like you. You're like, it's kind of worded it to a point like, oh, I really feel something.
Yeah, it's very
Um,
true. And it was brilliant. And I'm not a prolific user of the likes of ChatGPT, and there are others. And I knew I sort of write these down because I knew that it would probably come up about what are the tools that might be being used certainly with us
and I,
within AI. And so
yeah,
there's
oh,
ChatGPT, and I'm sure you'll know some of these. I mean, I didn't. Some of these I didn't even know existed, but they do. So there's Claude, Jasper, Microsoft Copilot, Amazon Code Whisperer, Meta AI, Otter AI, Google Gemini, amongst. I mean, there's loads. There are quite a
yeah,
few, and
yeah.
you've obviously, the people are now developing their own as well. So you're saying your business already is creating its own version of ChatGPT, rightfully
Yeah,
so.
so our business has its own version of ChatGPT, and I was saying to you earlier, the reason for that is if we upload a brand guideline, for example, and we say, hey, this is a brand guideline for this brand. I need 10 ideas for marketing campaigns for the launch of a new flavor or something, for example. If you've uploaded that brand guideline to ChatGPT, your IP is now out there in the ether. Someone can own that data, but actually, because we own it, we own the IP for it. We've built our own system so that it's protected.
Yeah,
And it's great. I'm one of the beta testers for it. Not everyone in our business has access to it at the moment, but it's actually been really good. And the reason you probably, I mean, if you had access to it, Mark, and if you were one of the best things about being a creative director is you have to set KPIs for your team every single year. And what I'm great at writing them down, but to your point before, shortening them,
yeah,
making them smart goals, or
yeah.
making them tangible and relatable and actually, meaningful in a more professional context is great for that kind of stuff. And so actually it's a teammate AI thing that we've built. It's been really helpful we're just testing it for things.
Does it work in the same way that ChatGPT is? Pretty much, you ask it any question, anything, and
Yeah,
then you can refine it
exactly.
and
Yeah.
refine it, and to the point where you think, right
It's
now, I've got it.
it's pretty much exactly the same. It has glitches in it where if you upload a document, it starts summarizing the document within seconds. Where you're like, no, no,
Yeah,
no, I don't want you to summarize it. So
yeah,
it's still working. It's still in beta testing, but definitely. And I mean, if probably like you or I would be like, oh my god, it looks ugly. It will spit out charts and go, I've summarized this document, and
yeah.
they put it into several flow charts for you. And I mean, you or I are like, oh my god, that's exactly what I want, more flow
That's
charts.
not pretty.
But actually, if you're in like a business side of our business, you love that stuff.
Yeah,
But
I get it.
it's just interesting to see what you can do and how you can push it, even just down to silly things like if you need to have a difficult conversation with someone, but you don't want to mess it up, you can put, this is my challenge, this is the conversation I need to have,
Yeah,
give me some ideas how to approach it. And
yeah,
because it's built on all these different behavioral models, it actually comes up with, even if it's just key points, But I guess our job now is to learn how to translate that information.
Yeah.
How, rather than just copy and paste it, which is what most people do with their marketing posts, like how do I take what I need but still make it me, still
Yeah.
make it relevant?
It's interesting. I wonder whether at some point we're going to start to see. Well, I know people are probably arguing the fact that it's out there already. There's this sort of, I don't know what the term is, but this um, blurred output, blurred creative output, which looks like they're all starting to look similar. And this, people are using AI so much, and AI is producing similar sort of outputs. And we're starting to notice that sort of brands are starting to sort of blend together. We've seen it already. You sent me a post the other day about this crossover of categories, and should we allow a perfume bottle to look like a floor cleaner bottle? Those
Yeah.
sorts of things where it just doesn't work. And
And
this is where I
also,
think this crossovers.
and it does also start to become a bit like an image library in a similar way. So
Yeah,
it won't always spit out the same response, but it's still going to have some sort of things that it draws to.
yeah,
Like, I don't know if you've used Adobe Firefly very much, and I'm sure there are people who use it way better than I do. But for me, so far, the only thing it seems to be good at is creating images of cats in bomber jackets and things. If I need to
yeah,
actually use it for something, it's great
yeah.
for presentations. But if it's for actually an actual piece of creative work, there's a lot of things that it needs to build on for an image creation from scratch. There's loads of amazing things that Photoshop and Adobe do well, extending images, stuff like that. It's
Yeah,
changed our world from a retouching point of view.
yeah.
So there's some amazing stuff that it's helping in creativity, and there might be people worried about losing their jobs, but it's just saving us time.
I think that's it. And I think when we talk about we're embracing AI, I think that is exactly what's happening. Like you've just said, Adobe Firefly, I'm aware of it only because it gets advertised a lot on all the sort of social media tools and what have you, just because it's the future of where Adobe is heading, really. I think they're spearheading it as part of their future of every aspect of the creative suite. But along with Adobe Firefly, it's the image libraries I think that are using it heavily as well. And whilst I think you still have to pay. You pay not a dissimilar amount to a standard normal image that a photographer's produced to an AI produced. You still pay a license fee for it.
You
I
do.
think there's a reduction. I don't know what the prices are exactly, but I think you'll be still paying an amount for that license, even though it's been generated via their own image library. Because I guess
Yeah.
the aspect of this is, let's say Shutterstock, for example, as far as I believe, they are using their own images that they already
Yeah.
have license for to produce this new area. They're not going
Yeah.
out into the Wild West and producing stuff which other artists have created. It's their own stuff that they own.
Yeah.
So you kind of get it, and it is helpful, it is fast, and the nice thing, like you said about Photoshop and Illustrator, they have something called generative fill, and as you just touched upon, you can create a space that perhaps it doesn't exist. It might be a blank area, and you select the area and you type in
Yeah.
fill this area with, a bunch of cats playing in a field, or a bunch of cats playing, but some cats playing, and it'll produce 3 or 4 options for you to choose from, and you can then refine it even more. Quite memory hungry. It takes a bit of time, and it's never perfect. It's certainly never perfect, but it serves as a tool to showcase what that creative concept might look like. And invariably, I don't know about you, I don't know if you show clients this conceptual stuff, because sometimes it is so rough, but it allows you as a creative team to start to see
Yeah.
this is where it could be going.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes, yeah, I mean, to your point, like before, like when we've done mood boards or when we've done whatever as creative, you can
Yeah,
spend ages in Shutterstock looking for the right image,
yeah,
even when it comes to actually doing final concepts. But actually, even Shutterstock is one of the ones now that has AI built into it, and you
yeah,
can search for what you want. And I mean, we would have spent hours as creatives looking for the right apple on plate with
yeah,
clear background and whatever. Now it just creates it from scratch.
yeah,
So it's definitely easier for searching for what you want. If you have an idea in your mind, it becomes a lot easier to find. I think where it struggles, and I'm testing different things at the moment, is actually to come up with the idea of what you want. So I think ideas will always be at the forefront of our industry. And until we teach the AI to come up with the initial ideas, I guess that's where, I mean, and that's where we want to spend the time, right? The ideas are the best part. And then if you can
well,
help someone
yeah,
help you bring it to life, that's great. But I'm testing something at the moment. There's a couple storyboards, I think it's called, where you put in, it's very much a strategic tool to come up with ideas, campaign ideas. It will look at trends and insights and data and analyze those kind of things. So I'm kind of excited by where some of that stuff's going, because you think about how much time you spend researching. If someone can give you some of those insights or the research quicker.
Yes.
But again, you've got to know what to search for to start with. But that's a really interesting one that's on my horizon at the moment. We're testing it as a company. It's good to be guinea pigs for things, because you get to see what's good and bad. Same thing
Absolutely.
is that our business is testing something at the moment for writing briefs as well, which is an interesting one for designers and
Yeah.
stuff. Because how often do you get a client brief and it's crap?
Yeah.
And so you have to go back with a reverse brief. So what this does, it almost helps you craft that reverse brief.
So explain to me reverse brief. This is you producing
So
a
often
brief and then giving it to
you'll
them.
have known it. We'll get a brief from a client and it will be, we want 3 new flavors
Yeah.
in this range with a new brand name. And you'll be like, okay, that doesn't give me a lot of information. Do you
Yeah.
want it to look premium? And we always talk about this. Your output for creative is as good as the brief. It
Yeah.
starts at the brief. You have a great brief. People are excited to work on it, to craft it, to create it. And we always talk to clients of, if you say, I want my product to look premium, well, what's premium to you? Tell me
Yeah.
what premium is, because notoriously it's black with some
Yeah.
sort of foiling. But what is that now? It's different. And so it means different things to different people. And what this tool actually does is helps you populate all of those things
Yeah.
by asking you questions. So, because, it's interesting. It's something I'm playing with at the moment. But often, so that then your reverse brief becomes so fleshed out that you can send it back and say, is this what you mean?
That is the dream, and I remember years ago wishing that there was something like that, because writing briefs is great, and it always, certainly with my own clients, my own design clients, is I would invariably they wouldn't be. They're often smaller business SMEs. They're not big corporates, and they don't necessarily understand what it is to write a brief. So I would invariably write the brief for them. And it's never perfect, but it was right. This is where I think after an initial discussion and fleshing out what they're looking for, I would then document our discussion and formulate a brief from that. And I used to think if there will be at some point a way of doing this, or not automating it, but getting that information and putting it into a nice, orderly fashion, which both I understand and the client gets and sees where it's going to be going. And to that point, you could possibly add in within the brief quick visuals that have been produced through Mid-Journey or something, just as this is
Yeah.
where we might want to go, even via storyboards. You don't want to be too specific in giving them concepts at the brief stage, because you want to steer them too much down an avenue. But yeah, the idea of having it an automatic, not automatic, and it's a brief assisting tool, I think is
And I think
fantastic.
that's actually a great way to think about AI as an assistant rather than
Yeah,
a replacement, or it's a tool. Like it's
yeah.
an assistant to what we're going to do. It's like a Siri or something, isn't it, to kind of help you get to where you need to be?
I think, and also just thinking back even more recently, I've had clients using ChatGPT. I haven't had clients using Midjourney yet. And
No,
Midjourney is like the visual, and in fact, I did write some alternative Midjourney options out there, because Midjourney is obviously we use as almost like a generic name for it. But I've got Adobe Firefly, Stable. I don't know if you know of any of these. I didn't.
stable
Firefly, yes.
diffusion, yeah.
Stable Diffusion, Leonardo AI, Canva, and here's one, Wombo Dream.
Can
I didn't toy with them too much, if I'm honest. Do you have a lot of
So we only use
play with them
Firefly
at
as a
all?
business. We've used Stable Diffusion. I've played
Yeah,
around in Mid Journey, but when Mid Journey launched, like you had to understand Discord and then
yes,
link Mid Journey to Discord. So I did when it first came out, and then I just didn't really find a need for it. But
yeah,
actually, we set up a business account for it, and a lot of our, like I said, a lot of our US studio have been using it for storyboard concepts for their brand experience for stores. And it
yeah,
looks awesome. Like some of the stuff they've been doing is amazing, but it's only
yeah,
as good as how well you can use it. I have no idea how they got to where they got to. So we don't use Midjourney that much in our studio. We definitely use Firefly because we do so much retouching. We also
yeah,
have a lot of photography, so it hasn't yet replaced the power of authentic photography in food and
yeah,
beverage for us.
definitely.
But it definitely helps when it comes to retouching images. We don't use any of the other ones we mentioned. I know there's so many of them. We actually had this week
Yeah,
as part of our business an AI Ask Me session where, because we have an AI council in our business, that's how nerdy we are. And actually they go out and dig out all of the best examples, and
Yeah.
some of them are, you're like, why would you ever do that? But it's interesting just to see. So they had loads in there in that whole presentation, that they had loads of different ways you could manipulate video or video yourself and then change it around or change your background, which just, it's like selfie culture a little bit to me. Don't know how it helped me get to the idea. But definitely just Firefly would probably be the main one, just
Yeah.
because it links to all of our Adobe things. But again, when we spoke about this before, it's on our list of things, is creative licensing is
Yeah.
something that's going to be the biggest talk point. And we just mentioned it before, if you upload something into Chat GPT, it becomes public data
Yeah.
somewhere along the line. So this whole who owns what is going to be a big conversation, and agencies will be having it with their clients, because clients will go, I love that image, can I use it? And you'll go, oh, created it in AI, it's just a
Yeah.
concept. So you have to, I mean, we've notoriously done it with illustration, where you'd show something as a concept idea and then have to commission an illustrator,
To copy its
um,
style.
which,
Yes.
which is kind of another layer, because actually we've had some discussions in our studio lately. One of our creatives is kind of upset that we're not using as many illustrators, but often clients won't pay for an additional
Yeah.
illustrator. So having those conversations where, look, you want to commission an illustrator, actually now technology is moving so far forward.
It's sad,
Sometimes
isn't
you
it?
don't, unless it's a
Craftsmanship.
mural. It is, and to your
Yeah.
point before about the whole taking the time to craft the perfect visual.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, logos and stuff. I still love crafting logos and stuff now. So it's not
Yeah.
done those bits yet. Get the right curves and everything. It's not
That's the.
accurate. It's really just a concepting tool. But yeah, things like, illustrators. What other jobs would it really be putting at risk right now? Because I think people are scared about losing their jobs, but I always think you've just got to think what your next skill set is. Like, we
Well,
should
I think
always be
already
learning.
the illustrators that I'm good friends with and still work with now on a regular basis, they I don't- they embrace the AI side of it. They're
That's
using
amazing.
their tablets along with within Photoshop and using that generative fill tool I was talking about. They speeds up their work, which invariably means that they will spend less time on a project, and you would hope for the client's perspective, probably charging less, but they're getting the work. But I think a lot of where they feel displaced is the fact that they're feeling their styles are being recreated, and they like to. I guess some illustrators like to sort of think that they own a particular
Yeah.
way or style of drawing or whatever it might be. And if that gets duplicated, that's where it becomes well, that's how I draw. But you didn't produce
Yeah,
it.
but I think that's been happening for years. I mean, notoriously, even as designers, we might like to say we don't have a style, but we do have a style.
Yeah,
We have certain designs that we're good at or not good at, and we all take our inspirations from all of the things around us.
yeah,
So at some point, someone's going to have echoed your style, or you have echoed someone else's style. So I mean,
yeah,
it's great that that the illustrators that are really just kind of going, well, we've got to move forward with it. We've got to use it and see how we can adapt it. It's allowed this. I mean, even when you think about digitization, like illustration used to just be on a piece of paper, and
yeah,
now you can draw straight onto the screen.
yeah.
So I know that's been happening for ages now, but how did that help illustrators get straight into the screen? It's amazing, the tools that we've got now to create those brush strokes in the same way, but directly onto your laptop. It's kind of just great. Like, it's allowed
It
them
is.
to.
It's brilliant, and I think there was a certain point where working within certain studios, I almost felt that the art of drawing was being lost because people were going directly into their Macs and using their sort of mouse to sort of create something on straight onto the screen. And there was no skill about lighting effects or even typography. But now using the likes of these sort of iPad tools, I mean, we're talking like the iPads like they've only just come out. They've been out for decades, or maybe. Well, when was the first iPad? First iPhone was 2007. iPad, I'm assuming, was probably year, 2 years after that, so 2008, 2009. So
A good 20 years.
15, 16 years at least, but we weren't able to draw on it at that point. I
Yeah.
can't remember when the sort of first stylus came out, but anyway, it's progressing, and designers, illustrators are using them more so than ever, and even Wacom tablets. I've noticed that there's a big uptake or bigger uptake in Wacom tablets recently, and certainly for me, I've got one on order because I'm finding the trackpad so frustrating. So, Lisa, have you got any future concerns? Any sort of parts
I
where
don't.
you think that we might have a detrimental impact from this, apart from
I
the job?
think the licensing thing is a big deal.
Yeah,
I don't really worry because I always think about how can, and it's interesting because I've had concerns this week about I should teach people in my team to do this level of artworking, and I had to lash back and go, actually, what we need to learn right now is how to use some of the future focused tools of
yeah,
which AI is. So I always try and embrace and encourage my team to play with things, to learn things, because they're going to become part of our everyday. And if you don't play with them and go, oh, copywriting, have to do it, it's ruining copywriters. Like maybe it's not. You still have to craft it. You still have to work with it. I appreciate the fact that, and it's happening, right? In definitely for one of our big clients now, we always used to have a copywriter on hand to write the copy, and we don't need them anymore.
yeah.
So I appreciate it's removing some of those roles, and it's challenging us to change what we do. But we've just got to change. Like it's not going anywhere.
Well, it
We've
is.
just got to
It's a
learn new
cost-saving
skills.
initiative that I guess most clients are wanting to pay less and get more. And the only way for that to happen and us to sort of keep our clients on board, because they'll go elsewhere. And I think that's the problem, is there's always going to be someone out there who's going to do it cheaper and faster. And that cheaper and faster will often mean, well, they're probably going to be using AI as to assisting
Yeah.
that aspect. And so,
And I
or
think,
doing it in-house, doing their copywriting
yeah.
in-house and using the likes
But
of these writing
But I
tools.
still think with all of these tools, the one thing that it will empower for agents is that you can be the brand champion. So the
Yeah,
one thing is if you're using all of these tools to create certain things for brands, someone's got to stay on top of is it on brand? So somewhere along the line, there's always things that you go, actually it doesn't, in the same way that you use Chat GPT and you go, write me a piece for this, and then you'll go, it doesn't sound like me. So if you're a brand creator and you're a brand ambassador, you need to be authentic to that brand. So people are
yeah,
using these tools, and you'll see it where people just churn it out and you go, yeah, that's written in an AI platform.
yeah,
It doesn't sound like the brand. So as a brand, how do we make sure we show up authentically,
yeah.
even if we're using AI? There was a Volvo advert, I think it was Volvo advert released this week, and it's the first advert by a car company produced purely in AI, and it has no cars in it. And I mean, it's
Yeah,
revolutionary because no one's done it yet, where they've
yeah,
not shown their product in the advert. But I always think to that, like, what are we pushing? What's the idea? What are we saying? And then how do we make sure that it's not just a gimmick? Because at the moment, AI still is a bit like, oh, like it's the first advert done with AI. Oh, it's the first one that doesn't have this, which is, we talk to chaos packaging. It's like the mashing together of things that you're not used to.
yeah,
So I think we're on a bit of a cusp of that with AI at the minute, where it becomes shock tactics. What can I do that's different? But when
yeah.
can we start using it to be authentic and real and just as a tool, rather than just for the sake of using it? So I think it's just learning to use it where it's best used. I mean,
I wonder whether there's going to be just a sort of thought off the cuff here, whether there's going to be a kickback, a bit like the automotive industry, where electric cars now are being to a certain extent shunned, partly because they're costing too much, and by contrast, a nice V8 sounding car or a petrol unleaded or diesel car is actually far more cost efficient at the moment, and electric cars are becoming more and more expensive. Porsche, for example, have stopped production of their fully electric vehicles. They're producing hybrids and petrol cars, but so I wonder whether we as an industry get to that stage where we're thinking we can't just keep using AI because we're losing out. It's
there,
becoming more expensive
there'll
because we're
be
developing the AI. So
maybe there will be a lashback, a bit like when people like strip back to do minimalism. Maybe there'll be specific agencies that do it the old school way, and
yeah,
it becomes this like we craft it. Everything is one off. Everything is created in house by ourselves. But I
yeah,
think originally you would have clients worried about, oh, you're not using AI. Now they're like, where are you using it? Is it efficient?
yeah.
Um,
And how much
and,
you're charging?
and it just hits so many levels across our businesses and our industry anyway. I was saying to you earlier about a case study we have recently is to use for the first time ever. I've used AI voiceover. So we did a rebrand for NMT. We'll give them a shout out on here because they were amazing clients. A rebrand. They're a global logistics company based in Australia and Amsterdam. And one of the parts of the brief was to produce this launch video for them. And it was the first time ever we use a video stock library, I guess, for video, and they also now have voiceover options. And we use a voiceover. You can go online and listen to it. It's very American, so I won't try and echo it. But it's American voice. You can pick and you can edit how the waves of the voice move along the video. So we'd have a script. We'd make the AI read the script, and then you can tweak it. Now, if you're a person who's doing a voiceover, how many times have you stood in the studio and gone, can you say that again with less emphasis? Can you say that again but not go up at the end? And so it takes time and it costs a lot of money. So in this instance, because of the type of voice they wanted, it was perfect. Now, taking that learning is the first time we've ever used it, and it's great. Like, I'm super proud of the video, but taking that learning, and now we're working on a client that wanted a female German voiceover. It's impossible to find one that's any good.
Yeah.
Which is something where we were talking about earlier. The limitations are, what does it think is most popular? What has it learned so far? And it's just not there yet in terms of finding a German accent.
It is trying to find an AI voice bot that is talking English with a German accent or in German language with a German accent.
Yeah, an English language, but a German accent.
Okay, yeah, I can see where that challenge would
Very
be.
specific. In 10 years' time, I'm sure, because we'll have so many different language models. Right now, we're seeing AI translate things into different language models. Like, I watch the football, soccer, if you're in Australia, and the subtitles are AI subtitles now. They're terrible.
Yeah.
Like, Nottingham Forest became not in the forest. So they just don't translate it right. But it can only get better. And they will then translate it to different languages. Our business is testing things at the moment because we're a global company. Often we will get brands that then need to sell in a different country.
Yeah.
How do you easily translate things? So I think visually it can do it, but actually language and hearing the voice. We spoke about it earlier, hearing someone present. It's really important. Someone can engage you or lose you in a heartbeat. So if it's AI, I mean, some of the AI ones are more inspiring than you or I could ever speak.
Yeah.
So at some point, maybe they'll just replace us, Mark, and we'll have some little bots present this podcast for us. They'll be way more inspiring than we ever could be.
Well, I've said before about we're using a new editing tool at the moment, or recording tool for this podcast, and there are tools within it which allow you to add to the transcript. If you've forgotten to say something, you can type in what it is you wanted to say, what you forgot to say, and it automatically reproduces your voice and video of you saying that content, which is quite scary. I promise you we haven't used it because I don't know how to use it, but nonetheless, it does exist already and it's very powerful. And this is just in a sort of a tool that's out there, an editing tool. So I think that was brilliant. On my summary of it all, I said, what are the detrimental impacts? I sort of wrote a quick list of the good, the bad, and the ugly. We know what the good and the bad are. I think the ugly is we don't know who's controlling it. I think this is where we start to get into conspiracy theories. Who's controlling it? And more to the point, who's going to be controlling it in the future? Will it be controlling itself? That when you start delving into it, we're talking top line of how we view it visually. Deep down in the control stations, you have to question who's churning the output, whether it's sort of being culturally adapted. I don't know. Is the answer? I think I do fear to a certain extent where that control comes from. But wow. I also asked ChatGPT yesterday to write up a summary for me for this one, just so it can round things up. So I'll read it to you. It's very short, and it's quite generic, but it kind of captures the point. So while AI in the creative industry can bring many benefits, it's important to address these risks through responsible development, regulation, and ongoing oversight to ensure it serves our industry and those within it in a positive and equitable way. There we go. It's very generic and it's a bit sort of save our jobs. Make sure we don't.
You can just tell that we would never have said that because we can't even speak the words that it uses.
Exactly. I can just read it. Let alone say it.
And I did the same. I did the same within our business platform. Not quite the same, but I just do you a top line of the benefits and then drawbacks. So I do the drawbacks first. We've spoken about them: creative license concerns, job market disruption, people having to learn new jobs, and an over reliance on technology. So to your point before, like, can people still kern typography? Yeah. I don't know about you, but if you're old school like me, you'll still look at things printed and go, "Oh my god, let's just move the letters." Yeah. So it doesn't necessarily do that because it's never been trained at old school crafting and ways of doing it. But some of the benefits of AI in design it pulled out were that it's enhanced efficiency. Of course, no one wants to spend 8 hours photoshopping things. It's data-driven creativity. I think some of the tools that spark ideas, because we've all sat in a room and gone, I don't know where to start. So sometimes it can give you that springboard and that start point. And it's put that it expands creative possibilities. Yeah. I think debate. We'll let readers, listeners go away and debate that amongst themselves.
Well, I think it does. It does to say, isn't it? I think what will be interesting is if we discuss this. Well, we had sort of part one was the robots are coming. Part two is embracing
Yeah.
AI, and part three is going to be AI is taken over. So who knows? In another 4 years time, we'll have this sort of same discussion and see exactly where we're at.
We'll do an episode with avatars in
Brilliant.
the future.
Lise, this has been brilliant. Thank you ever so much, and onwards and upwards, and on to the next one.